producers behind the scenes at SKOR North and 1500 ESPN have sports opinions, so they want you to hear them. It's the perfect digital sports soapbox to scratch that Minnesota sports itch. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad.
We know the Minnesota Vikings are about to select a quarterback in the NFL draft, but just who exactly is that going to be? And how much are we going to have to pay to get him? Welcome into the SKOR North Taxi Squad, everyone. My name is Jason Stormer, joining along Artis Woods, Grant Wenkstern, and making his triumphant return to the show, one of the original founding fathers of the program. Actually, if you go to episode 1 of the Taxi Squad, his voice is the very first one you hear. You might as well call him Aragorn because it is the return of the king. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Manny Hill.
Is it Return of the King or Return of the Prodigal Son? I don't know. What should we call it? I don't know.
You are the guest, sir. You can call yourself whatever you want.
Well, I'm excited to be back on with you guys, though. This is fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. Obviously, we got a whole lot going on with Minnesota sports. This thing called the NFL draft is literally right around the corner. The Minnesota Vikings are about to find out who their quarterback of the future is going to be. And Grant, if you don't mind, could you hold up that jersey just a little bit that you're wearing right now? Because you are just dripping right now with some Anthony Edwards swag. Let's go.
Move the hood.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. The Timberwolves are up 2-0 on the Phoenix Suns, everybody. I can't believe it. I didn't necessarily predict it, but here we are, and we're going to break it all down here on the Taxi Squad for you. But gentlemen, otherwise, how you feeling today? Are you ready finally to have this resolution after all of the reckless speculation going on about who the next Vikings rookie quarterback will be? Are you guys just finally glad that pretty much we are on the precipice of finding out who this guy actually is?
I feel great, man. Happy to be here for another episode of Taxi Squad. Honestly, Manny, I had to put the spotlight back on you, but I just want to just be like, I just got so many questions about the Vikings and about the Wolves. I have my own takes, obviously, but it's been so long since I've heard you speak on these things, and obviously, it's so much going on. I almost want to just pitch everything to you and just sit back today and just watch greatness, you know. But I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy Manny's here. I'm obviously happy you guys are here too, but I'm used to you guys. You guys are whatever. But yeah, man, just excited for today's show, man. And excited about the draft, excited about the Wolves. What is there not to be excited about?
Right? Everything's fun right now.
Right. All right, fellas. So let's get into it. We got a lot of reckless speculation to comb through a little bit before we actually get into who we think the Vikings are actually going to take for their quarterback. And also we can get into some speculation of who they also might take that isn't a quarterback as well. Yes, there are other positions of need for the Minnesota Vikings, even if it doesn't feel like it amongst the team and the fan base. But guys, honestly, it was just such a busy week. All the big heavy hitters among NFL insiders were pretty much saying so many different things. I'm going to try to go a little bit in chronological order here, but there is just so much to comb through. It started just a few days ago with the rumors coming from Jeremy Fowler that the Vikings are making phone calls into the top 10. Now, I think we kind of assumed that the Vikings probably were doing this anyway, but this was some pretty definitive proof here that people, at least the NFL insiders, are getting word that this is what the Vikings could potentially be doing. But then the very next day, guys, we got some rumors that we might even try to be jumping into the top 3. Now, that rumor was also parlayed along with the fact that the New York Giants might also be in competition to get into the top 3. Boy, might look like they might be moving on from Daniel Jones. That was from Adam Schefter. And I believe also Peter Schrager parlayed that report as well, saying, yes, this is some pretty legitimate sourcing right now and that the Giants are in play here. Moving on to the next day, pretty much, then all the Drake Maye speculation kind of started up, guys. So we've seen some reports saying that he kind of has the idea of where he's going to go. He's got a vibe of what teams he's going to go to, but also there have been some reports as well that, you know, the Vikings might be pretty aggressive in going after Drake Maye. All right, everybody just take a second to breathe a little bit. I know that was a lot, and that's not really everything else that's been going on, but guys, do you have a sense, just not even, I mean, we are almost less than 24 hours before the actual draft itself. Based off the reports you guys have seen, based off the reports I just laid out a little bit to you, do you guys have any sense of direction whatsoever, nearly 24 hours before the draft, exactly of where the Vikings are going to go based off all the reports that are happening right now? Manny, why don't we start with you?
Well, I think it just depends on, I don't think there's any question that the Vikings are going to try and trade up. I mean, this is why they traded for that Houston pick, that 23rd pick in the draft. So they are going to try everything possible to move up to take, you know, I think Drake Maye seems like the guy that we're kind of, that there's that heavy rumor that they're really high on, the guy that they really really want. But the fact of the matter is, even if you're trying to trade up, you've got to be able to find a partner that's willing to do that and willing to take what you're willing to give up. And if the Vikings can't get a deal done, I still think even if you end up having to reach for a guy at 11, I think you got to take him. And that means if you're going to take, if Michael Penix is there at 11 and you've got, obviously Caleb Williams will be off the board. He's going 1 to Chicago. And Daniels and Maye and McCarthy are all off the board. And Michael Penix or Bo Nix is that next guy up. You got to take him. Even if even if they might not otherwise be drafted that high, because the problem you have is you have the Broncos picking right behind you. And we're hearing the rumors about the Broncos and Bo Nix, which doesn't surprise me because I remember watching Bo Nix and just thinking Sean Payton would just drool over this guy. He just has everything. Like, it just feels like Sean Payton looks at Bo Nix and sees his new Drew Brees. You know what I mean? It just kind of feels like that. And maybe, I could be wrong on that, but still, you've got a situation where you've got two teams behind you, the Broncos at 12 and the Raiders at 13, who also need quarterbacks. So even if you feel like you're reaching for a guy like Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr., you're going to have to do it, because otherwise one of those two teams is going to, or if not both, is going to take those guys. And then you're sitting at 23. And now there's nobody at that point. There's really nobody worth taking at 23, unless it's, what are we talking? Spencer Rattler. I mean, Spencer Rattler might not go to the third round. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Even if you feel like, even if on most draft boards, draft analysts has Bo Nix as like the 30th best overall prospect, you might have to just reach for him and take him at 11, because you have to get out of this draft with a young quarterback that you're going to try and build on in your future.
I'm glad you bring that up, Manny, because there was also a report from Yahoo Sports' Charles Robinson that the Vikings would be, quote, comfortable with using a first-round pick on Bo Nix if the team's plans to trade up do not work on Thursday. So it would seem right now the contingency plan for the Vikings, if they aren't able to move up at least into the top 10 or get that guy in 11, would potentially be Bo Nix. And I haven't seen a whole lot more steam on Michael Penix. I don't really know if the Vikings...
What is the drawback with Penix? If Penix is there, they have to take Penix. That is my take. That's my guy in this draft.
At 11, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you have to. I'm not too high on Bo Nix. I've never been really high on Bo Nix. Penix is the guy to me.
Yeah.
I think he has potential to be, and it might sound crazy, he has potential to be the second best quarterback in this draft. Like, I see it. And then with the weapons that you have with the Vikings right now, I just think he fits in perfectly. And I think that's the type of player that JJ would want to re-sign and play with. So I think.
Sorry to cut you off, Artis, but the only negative, quote unquote negatives with Michael Penix is, one is his age. He's 24, or he's going to be 24 when the season starts. And also, people have concerned about, the injury history. He's had 2 ACLs. He's had a shoulder situation. But this guy he's got the good size. He's about 6'3", about 220 pounds. His arm is ridiculous. This guy has an absolute cannon for an arm. And I don't want for people to make a big deal about his performance in the national championship game, because he was fantastic in every other game that Washington played.
Yeah. And he was basically playing an NFL roster in Michigan too. Like, that was basically an NFL roster with all the draft picks they're going to have. I've heard, and I think this is pretty silly too, because you don't hear this at all with Tua or the Dolphins or Tyreek or Jalen Waddle having this issue at all. I hear a lot of people knocking Penix simply because he's a left-handed quarterback, and that some receivers kind of don't like how the rotation of the ball comes off a lefty thrower's hand.
And that be in the NFL.
I know, right? I think that's a very silly thing to nitpick. If you are a wide receiver and you're concerned about that kind of thing, I think you probably belong on the practice squad. But it's a legit thing that people are actually bringing up, that it could potentially throw off wide receivers' rhythm. But we got JJ, we got Jordan Addison, we got TJ Hawkinson. I'm not really worried about our wide receivers dealing with any kind of of issue. I think we got pros, and that's not going to be something.
Throw
that
Justin Jefferson the football. Throw Justin Jefferson the football.
Cares about.
That's all he cares about. Throw him the ball. And if it
Mm-hmm.
leads to wins, that's all Justin Jefferson cares about. He doesn't care if it's left-handed or if you're kicking it to him.
Right.
Get him the football, period.
Yeah. Who's your guy, Grant?
Well, you guys know how I've always felt this from day one about JJ. Not the biggest fan, but after watching a lot of film, I have to take back my statement that I think he's a little bit more polished than I would say that I had been leading into for the last few times that I've been on this show. But I think Maye is going to be the guy. I think that there's the fact that they brought in his quarterback or his high school coach. I mean, I don't think that Josh McCown. I think that there was a reason for that. Not saying that they know for sure, but I mean, you'd have to think that there's something tied to that.
Right.
I also, with some of the rumors, feel that there is a potential, and this may not be true, but some people have led to it, that they already have a deal potentially in place with the Patriots based on how things land.
Interesting.
And if that's the
I've heard
case,
that too.
It's Drake Maye.
you've heard that, and that's Drake Maye. You have to. I just think if you brought in McCown and you have that third pick, you're going to go Maye.
Yeah.
But I have to say that I'm going to take a little step back and eat some crow. Because McCarthy, after watching a lot of film and watching him,
You like what you see?
I like the way where he can place the ball. I like his vision, and I think that they brought up. I always talked about how the second half of Penn State no passes, but then again I heard that was their backup coach and he was running the ball, being safe. There are a lot of things that I have learned over the last few days, so I have to give JJ McCarthy the credit that he deserves. But I think it's going to be Maye, and I do kind of like that idea that potentially that there already is a deal in place depending on who is available at 3 with the New England Patriots already. Because New England Patriots, they need a quarterback, but they need everything. Yeah. And you're not going to go get your franchise youthful quarterback when you have so many other pieces to build, when you want that rookie contract, when you're not ready to use that
Their
rookie
offensive
contract.
line in particular is just in shambles right now. They'd be executing a rookie quarterback if they brought him in, and they're not doing. Didn't Jacoby Brissett re-sign with them?
Yes.
To kind of be their bridge quarterback.
And he's
good luck to you, sir.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
But so I'm thinking Maye at 3 if they move up. But and I also see a very, very true scenario where they don't get to move up. Now, I think that, like you said, Manny, they need to do everything they can to move up. But I see that not being also a possibility with the demand and with everybody knows what we have and how desperately we need one. There's going to be a high price for that. And I could see them sticking back, taking 11 and 23 and going with your guy.
I wonder who
Penix.
the Patriots guy is at quarterback.
I think the
wonder if
top
they're
3
looking-
is set. I really think the top 3 is set. I think Caleb's going number 1. I think Jaden's going number 2, especially because we had a report from Diana Rossini basically saying that the Commanders are no longer taking any phone calls pretty much for anybody on number 2.
Yeah.
I assume that's
Those
going to
are
be
set.
Jaden
'Cause
Daniels.
I'm thinking like, okay, maybe if they like throw a wrench in things and go Drake Maye, maybe the Patriots are like, oh no,
I
we're
think-
going to stay and take Daniels.
You
at
have
that.
to.
Yeah.
I think Drake Maye is going number 3 no matter what, whoever's going to be holding that pick. Whether the Patriots decide, you know what, maybe we want to point towards the direction of getting our franchise quarterback now, screw it. I mean, that's the quickest way to turn around a franchise, right? Getting that quarterback. So maybe the Patriots aren't worried about the roster around him, or they get a king's ransom from somebody. And granted, there are other rumors too about who could potentially move in the top 5. The Cardinals have basically stated that they're not going to even take any trade offers until the draft actually starts or until they're actually on the clock as well. And honestly, I mean, there's so many good wide receivers for the Cardinals. I would recommend actually trading if they were in the position. But yeah, I think pretty much the top 3 is set. So if the Vikings have identified Drake Maye as their guy, it's going to be top 3. Yeah. It's going to have to be top 3. And if there is this potential handshake agreement behind the scenes, great. Get ready to give up 3 first-round picks, probably a second-round pick on top of that, maybe a third round. Maybe you can negotiate that, but that is probably going to be the price that it's going to cost the Vikings, considering we have the Giants now linked a ton. Other quarterback-needy teams, like Manny mentioned, like the Broncos. I know the Raiders kind of haven't been in the mix of quarterback stuff lately, but I can't count them out as well. And I even saw a rumor about Michael Penix being linked to the Falcons for some reason.
Makes no sense.
I think that is just reckless speculation of all reckless speculation.
That is the smoke screen of all smoke screens right
I
there,
don't know.
man.
Speaking of the Falcons,
yes.
let's bring
yes,
this
good to bring
up.
this up.
Are
Yeah,
we?
sure.
Is anybody? Are you mad? Are we okay with the fact that now the NFL's like, no, we're not going to get this done by the draft?
I don't see why it couldn't have been resolved beforehand.
That's BS, man.
Look,
you did it last year. You got it done in time.
I don't know.
What do you think, man?
Yeah.
What do you think, Artis?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked too deep
All right,
into it.
well,
I know the Eagles are also
I was about to say
involved
they're
in that.
in the meat grinder too for Saquon. Yeah. No comment.
No comment.
No comment from
No
Artis on
comment.
that.
No comment. I'm just like, because I didn't know that piece of information that you just shared. I thought they were going to do it right before, and maybe
It
'cause I
came
saw
out
a
They've done it
report-
before.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Came
Because
out
I
yesterday.
thought I saw a report like from some type of Eagles fan page I follow that they were going to come down on that beef either tonight or early tomorrow.
I would
morning or
love that.
something.
Not
So,
for you.
For Philly though,
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Atlanta, so that's new information to me.
I know you're
but I
Philly.
agree. If that's the case, it is smart to have it handled before the draft. But what it also tells me is like, what's taking y'all so like, what other stone could you now flip? to
Maybe
figure out
that's
more
just it.
information?
Maybe they're just
That would
still
be my question.
performing an investigation, and still there's more rocks to be unturned with all this. I don't know. I mean,
I guess.
this was one of the most blatant forms of tampering I've ever seen in terms of a free agent. You had Kyle Pitts, you had the trainer, you had Kirk admitting to pretty much all of it in the introductory press conference. I'm not going to sit here and like pretend I'm like super like disappointed that this didn't result in any draft compensation for the Vikings, but I just hope down the line potentially we could get something for it, or at least something is stripped away from Atlanta. They should at least have a pick stripped away. It doesn't necessarily have to go to the Vikings, but I mean, this is just so clear cut. And
It's a little convenient. I don't know. What do you think, Manny?
yeah,
I have just kind of long saw this whole thing as kind of a nothing burger, just because it's not because I didn't think that the Falcons did any sort of tampering. I just never really felt like anything substantial was going to come from it. Like, it's not like, I know there were like rumors of like, wow, what if they swapped first round picks and gave the Vikings the 8th pick and moved Atlanta back to 11. Saw stuff like that. Like, I just, to me, it's like, unless something like that was going to happen, which from the very beginning, I never got the sense that something like that was going to happen. To me, it just wasn't that big of a deal. It just kind of felt like if anything happens, to Jason's point, like the Falcons were going to get stripped of like maybe like a third round pick or something.
Yeah.
And it might not have even been a third round pick in this year's draft. It might be like the 2025 draft or something like that. And at that point, that really has nothing to do with the Vikings. It doesn't impact the Vikings whatsoever. So it's like, why should we give a damn?
Yeah, good point. I get you there. I feel that. That makes sense. I just thought that, like, I don't know. The fact that they even had to report on it yesterday. I'm like, why?
Well,
if it's not, if there's nothing here, why are we even reporting about it?
No, there were some pretty prominent, Vikings media members that were even throwing out the speculation that Atlanta would forfeit number 8 to us as a result of this. Which I know that would have been.
I think
nuts.
that's just.
Could you
reckless
imagine though?
speculation.
I know, but how could you guys imagine how much that would have changed things? How much would it change this episode? How much it would have changed our approach, and just how much it would have benefited the Vikings, because they probably would not have had to give up a ton of draft capital to move up if they would have gotten that pick. But I think it ultimately was just a little wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And who knows? Like you guys said, maybe we'll get something down the road. Again, I just want at least Atlanta to, just get knocked for something. We don't have to get anything in return. We just want Atlanta to get knocked for something.
But not Philly. Not Philly.
They're good.
Eagles fly.
Maybe a little.
They're good. No tampering.
Weren't you guys involved with one last year too?
I don't think so.
The Arizona Philly thing? No, with the coach. Am I wrong?
Artis has a short memory.
Yeah, you got
regardless.
last year. 2 years in a row, you guys are in the same predicament.
Is it warm in here? Is this collar tight? Lie, Eagles, lie.
This is about the Vikings right now.
I know.
This is Minnesota. They're going to kill me in the comments. I forgot this guy's an Eagles fan.
Sorry.
Okay, guys, we've come through it. We've gone through the reckless speculation. I think we've gotten a little bit of a general vibe of who we're all kind of leaning towards, of who, our individual preference would be to for the Vikings to draft. So let's all go around the room here. Let's first of all say, all right, who is definitively our guy out of any of the quarterbacks available? And sure, go ahead and include Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels if you want. I'm not going to do that. But let's see here who your guy is, and then we'll go around the room again and see who we all think the Vikings will actually take. Just because we have our guy doesn't necessarily mean that the Vikings will actually take that player. So let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Artis, why don't we start with you? I did a little spinny wheel right there.
Michael Penix is my guy.
Michael Penix is your
Michael
guy.
Penix is my guy.
You've been with him from day one.
Yep.
I like you for
He's
that. I
my
appreciate
guy.
that. Okay.
He's my guy.
Okay, Grant, who's your guy?
Drake Maye.
Drake Maye.
Yeah.
Drake Maye. Manny, how about you?
Yeah, I'm with Grant. Drake Maye is my guy. I like I like the makeup, the physical tools are there. I think he fits Kevin O'Connell's system the best out of all of these guys. Maybe Maybe Caleb Williams is kind of an exception. I mean, I just don't even like really include Caleb Williams in these conversations because we know he's going to Chicago. Like it's just a foregone conclusion. But yeah, Drake Maye is my guy. I know there are flaws there, but I think, you know, the overall physical tools seem like the best fit for the Vikings going forward. Yeah. And so I think that makes the most sense for me.
All right, I'm unfortunately going to have to steal Grant and Manny's takes because I am also all in on Drake Maye. It's going to be May. I'm sorry I had to do that. So here's the thing. He's the youngest quarterback out of the group. That appeals to me a little bit, especially because we're dealing with maybe some older, longer in the tooth quarterbacks like the Bo Nixes, like the Michael Penixes, and obviously they had some eligibility years and extra years to be able to cash in on that in college. Obviously, you can look at the numbers with Drake Maye, and you saw not a massive statistical decline, but just something that was noticeable.
But his team changed dramatically from last year to the year before.
His coordinator did too.
Yeah, his coordinator,
exactly.
The line. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
And so what that resulted in was about a 8 to 9, 10-point drop in his QBR for the most part, right? You know, okay, a little sophomore slump, it happens. Well, you know who else had about that same amount of QBR drop in their sophomore season as well? CJ Stroud.
Look at that comparison.
Now, granted, that doesn't mean that Drake Maye is the next CJ Stroud, but for anybody worried about the numbers with Drake Maye, I just got to tell you, look at CJ Stroud and you look at the successes he's had in the NFL, kind of a very similar situation. Now, CJ Stroud had a lot of other weapons. He threw over 40 touchdowns. He had better seasons, ultimately, than Drake Maye. But, again, I'm just trying to, calm down that just the sophomore slumping thing with Drake Maye. I'm kind of done with that.
I like that.
He offers the most tools, I think, that the Vikings that will benefit them. He reminds me the most of Josh Allen, and for whatever reason, Josh Allen is kind of just the prototypical quarterback I'm always looking for in a draft, minus maybe the turnover issues, granted. So Drake Maye really is my guy. Grant, I mean, for the Vikings, though, it might be an issue is completion percentage. I know he doesn't necessarily is not the most accurate out of this group, but I just think with all the steam that we've heard the last couple of days with Adam Schefter talking about the Vikings going to get in the top 3, with Schrager talking about Drake Maye as well. I just think that with maybe some of the leaks and some of the information that's got on out of TCO Performance Center down in Eagan, I'm just seeing the wind blowing the sails towards the direction of Drake Maye, and that's personally where I also want the Vikings to go. I just think he offers the most upside for the team. Close second, though, JJ McCarthy. I really had to kind of weigh this whole thing out because I really think JJ is going to be a good pro. I really do. I mean, having Harbaugh as his coach for those 3 years, I think is so beneficial. Working in a pro-style system pretty much in college right away, I think he is going to have maybe the easiest transition out of all of these quarterbacks in terms of playing right away.
Very good play action.
But anyway.
Great at play action,
so
which we're good at.
Yeah, so that's who we want. That's who we want in our hearts and in our minds. But do the Minnesota Vikings agree with us? Let's go around the room again, starting with Artis. Artis, Michael Penix is your guy, but did the Minnesota Vikings agree with you? Who do you think the Vikings are most interested in?
I think it's Drake Maye. I think if you move up, you take Drake Maye. Plain and simple. I think that's the move. I think in the weird world where Daniels drops right there, that would also be lovely. I don't think it'll happen, but if that happened, oh my gosh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what anyone says. The Commanders are a wild card to me. You just don't know. You never know with the Commanders. But I think it's Drake Maye.
Okay. Grant?
You're asking me who the Vikings feel is their main focus? Because the last one was who I feel.
Who you feel? Now, who do you think they feel?
Oh, I'm kind of with you there. I think it has to be, with the hiring of the coach, with like what Manny said, with how well he'd fit into our system. I'm actually going to change I think the Vikings are actually a little bit more, this is going to sound weird because I've been so anti-JJ, but McCarthy, the way he does so well with the play action and the way that Harbaugh has run that offense, it's very similar to what we see. And I just,
you think their guy is JJ?
I think their guy might be JJ. That sounds good.
He's a close second for me as far as guys I think they might target.
Yeah, close second. So I'm going to just switch it up so we're not going to all go Drake Maye here. I'm going to say JJ McCarthy.
All right, Manny?
I'm going to stick with, I think Drake Maye is the number one guy on their list. I do think that they like JJ McCarthy. I think they like Jaden Daniels. I think they like Michael Penix and Bo Nix too. I think Kevin O'Connell likes all of these guys. I do. Yeah. I do because I think when you look at the way everything has kind of played out for the Vikings over the last couple of years since Gracie Adolfo-Mensah took over as the GM and Kevin O'Connell took over as the head coach, I think this particular draft class with these quarterbacks, I think they were targeting this particular draft class. And I think because they knew that this class was going to have a lot of quarterbacks that were going to be worthy of being taken in the first round, and many of them taken in the first half of the first round. So I think they are intrigued by all of these guys. I do think Drake Maye is number one on their board. Outside of, again, we're not including Caleb Williams in this conversation. So I think Drake Maye is number one for them. I think J.J. McCarthy could be number two, and maybe Jaden Daniels is number three for them. But I think if they're in a situation where if they feel like they can get Drake Maye, they have, to Grant's point, I think they have a deal in place, a package in place that they're ready to offer the Patriots.
Yep.
If Drake Maye is going to be available there at 3. And I think they're waiting to see what Washington does at 2. If Washington takes Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye is there at 3, then I think Kwesi is on the phone with Elliott Wolf and saying, this is what we're going to give you. This is what we're offering. And it's Elliott Wolf, it's up to him to decide, like, if he wants to take that or not. And if he wants to, stand pat at 3, maybe he takes Drake Maye or J.J. McCarthy, and then the Vikings are stuck at 11, and they're going to have to take one of like Bo Nix or Michael Penix or something like that. But I think they're going to find a guy, and I think they're going to be ultimately happy for him and happy with him. And I think with the infrastructure that they have set up with these receivers, an offensive-minded head coach who played the position himself, with some cap flexibility coming up in 2025, a lot of cap flexibility coming up in 2025, I think this is setting up really nicely for them to just kind of plug in any quarterback they want into this infrastructure. And you've got Sam Darnold too to start right away. So you're not pressured in starting whoever it is right away in week 1 in 2024. So I think they're set up good. I think they're going to come out of this with a quarterback. But, I'm giving a very, very long-winded answer here. I do think Drake Maye is the number one guy on their board.
It's good. Yeah, I'm with you.
We're here to listen to Manny Hill talk anyway, so the longer the answers, the better. Please.
Deep voice, baby.
Yes.
My goodness. Right.
Guys, I remember listening to Manny in college. Seriously.
Manny,
not to make you feel old, Manny.
Remember the first time I met you, Manny? I came up and I was like, the first time I came here, I started working at KS95, and I'm like, I just met you, and I'm like, I listened to you when you used to be with Royce all the time, man. Yeah. You are a hero to us, buddy.
And more importantly, a founding father of the SKOR North Taxi Squad. Most importantly.
Right. Right.
Man, if only AJ were here, we'd literally have the entire band back together. My goodness. AJ's busy interviewing Bill Guerin on Judd's hockey show. Look at him go. Just wearing the big breeches now.
Time,
AJ Fredericks, I know. Look at him.
Nice.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's my turn, right?
Yeah,
all right,
you.
So my heart wants Drake Maye. But what I'm worried about is that the Vikings are going to get outbid here. We all think the Vikings are pretty desperate to move up. I think maybe there is one team that might be just a little bit more desperate. So unless really this handshake agreement with the Patriots is like behind the scenes that definitive and we're just waiting for like draft day to announce it, I'm just going to pretend that scenario is just unlikely at the moment. And I just think there might be another desperate team that could hop into that 3 spot. I mean, Elliott Wolf basically even said, I saw the quote, I think former Twin Cities reporter now for The Athletic, Chad Graff, got the quote saying, "We are open for business," pretty much. So, the Vikings may have a handshake agreement right now, but somebody could get on the phone with the Patriots and say, hey, okay, tell us what the Vikings are offering. Here's what we'll offer, just even a little bit more. So I'm going to predict that the Vikings will not end up getting into the top 3. I'm going to predict that they will not get Drake Maye, but I still predict we are going to trade up into the top 6, potentially maybe with the Cardinals or the LA Chargers to select J.J. McCarthy. I am digging the completion percentage by this guy. I'm digging the pro-style offense that he basically ran pretty much all 3 years in Michigan, despite not playing a ton his freshman year, but he still got some reps in. And again, KOC loves accurate passers.
Yeah.
And I believe McCarthy has a decent deep ball accuracy as well. Probably needs to grow that out a little bit. But when you got JJ, you got Jordan Addison, guess what? That deep ball accuracy is going to go up just with those two guys by default. JJ McCarthy was pretty much the leader in the clubhouse in terms of odds-on favorite to be the next Vikings quarterback. I don't know what the current odds are now. I don't know if that is swung to the favor of any other particular quarterback, maybe Drake Maye. But I'm going back to kind of the original OG, the guy that kind of all the Vikings fans got lost in his eyes kind of thing, and that was J.J. McCarthy. I know Thor Nystrom is going to be very, very happy with the fact that I'm saying all this because he's been backing J.J. McCarthy pretty much from the beginning. Now, we've had some reports, too, that maybe Harbaugh might actually try to maybe, get in the way of maybe the Vikings or maybe kind of dictate how much, the Chargers may want to, negotiate with them. And I don't know if that's Harbaugh just being a little, bitter that the Vikings didn't hire him as their head coach a couple of years ago, or maybe Harbaugh trying to manipulate the system to get his guy, J.J. McCarthy, into a spot where Harbaugh actually think he's going to thrive and succeed. That's not necessarily the LA Chargers. So I want Drake Maye, gentlemen, but I am saying that we are going to go get J.J. McCarthy, not getting into that top 3, but getting into the top 6 for sure. So yeah, no. Just my 2 cents.
My question to you is maybe or Manny or Artis, being that the Giants are at 6 and Titans are at 7. Now I know the Giants just paid Daniel Jones, and who's the gentleman that they drafted last year? The Titans.
Will Levis,
Will
quarterback.
Levis.
Yeah,
and Will was mediocre last year.
He showed a little promise.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say great, but wasn't bad.
Right.
No, his team was bad.
With the money that they gave Daniel Jones and the already drafting the young quarterback they have, do you see any of those 2 teams interrupting our situation?
I think the Titans are desperate for O-line help, and there's that Notre Dame that was a Joe Alt or something. That guy, the tackle guy. I've seen him. I don't know.
I think Alt is from here.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I've seen him mocked a ton to the Titans, so I don't think the Titans are ready to give up on Will Levis.
Okay.
I think they're definitely going to go in next year as his starting quarterback, and they're going to be confident in that decision.
Yeah.
As the year goes on, I don't know. We'll see, but it's kind of maybe similar to like the Falcons being linked to Michael Penix. It might just be a little premature based off those current quarterback situations to link anybody in this draft. But if Will Levis has a bad year, maybe some of the Titans need to consider going into next year.
Yeah, Joe Alt went to Totino.
Totino, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was a local kid. Yeah.
Very nice.
Giants, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, dude.
Maybe.
I think they're going to be a sneaky little, because just Daniel Jones is a bust.
I know, but did they want to Russell Wilson themselves already?
I don't
know. Is there any chance there's any sliver of promise Daniel Jones still has left where they're not willing to completely Parisi and Suter themselves?
Without Saquon, he's going to have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
He's going to have a hard time.
Well, there's that. And is Brian Dable going to be on the hot seat this year?
Probably.
Right.
This guy was coach
York.
of the year in 2022. He comes in a wild card round in US Bank Stadium and beats the Vikings.
Yeah.
And then, Daniel Jones got hurt last year and everything just kind of fell apart for them.
Point.
I don't think Daniel Jones is good at all. And I thought it was ridiculous for them to pay him in the first place. Right. They only paid him because of what he did against the Vikings in the playoffs. Seriously. They seem to forget what happened the very next week against Artis' Eagles in the playoffs. They just seem to, that just went out of sight, out of mind for them. But they use the Vikings game as a reason to pay him $40+ million a year.
Yeah, Daniel Jones should do like a Bonnie Bonilla day for Ed Donatel and just give Ed Donatel like $500,000 once a year for that payday that he allowed him. Ed Donatel day. We can celebrate it. It'd be great. It'd be great. Pay that man. He got paid. Yeah. But yeah, guys, we talked about all the links about the Giants potentially moving up now all of a sudden over the last week. So the steam is real. And man, if you're Daniel Jones, that's just got to be a confidence killer right there to see all this going on. But maybe it's just a smoke screen, and maybe at least he is paid. Great point.
And maybe the Giants feel like they want to get Daniel Jones another weapon, another receiver. This is a very receiver heavy draft. They could always. I think the Giants could always. They've got the one good offensive lineman. They could probably use another. Probably use more help on the offensive line. So who knows? The Giants are a wild card here, though. But if you're the Vikings and you're going to miss out on Drake Maye and you really like J.J. McCarthy, you might have to give the Chargers a call, because I think the Cardinals are going to stay put at 4, which I think they should stay put at 4 and just take Marvin Harrison Jr. and not look back.
Sell those jerseys.
We all want it. They know it.
Although
do it.
I did see a report that I think who's the Colts owner, Jim Irsay. I think he maybe even said like, hey, maybe the Colts could maybe go after Marvin Harrison Jr. and get those 88 jerseys out, folks. That would actually be so cool. If he went back to the Colts and he wore 88 like his dad, that would be actually super duper sick. But then the expectations would be through the roof.
Would be really high.
And I don't know if I'd want to deal with that.
I think he could live. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. could live up to his dad's expectations.
I was going to say,
that guy
doing it in the same place that your dad did it, though, that wouldn't be easy. But best of luck to all the NFL draftees that are going to be selected over the next couple of days. You're literally going to be making memories. Dreams are coming true. Congratulations to all you guys. Congratulations to all the undrafted free agents that are going to be happening as well. The draft is finally here, and the Minnesota Vikings and the rest of the NFL is finally on the clock. But the clock may be ticking, gentlemen, on the Phoenix Suns because Wait, what's going on?
Breaking news with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Dang it, right in my transition. What's going on?
I'm sorry. Nas Reed, 6th man of the year.
Oh!
Just voted 6th man of the year. My God.
Two words. Get the towels out, everybody.
My buddy
Nas Reed.
My buddy just texted me while we're doing the show. He's like, Nas Reed, 2 words.
There we go.
And I looked, and it's just, 2 well, this was 2 hours ago. My apologies.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't breaking news.
Still breaking for us.
Breaking here.
Either way, let's transition into the Timberwolves, gentlemen. An unprecedented 2-0 advantage for your Timberwolves over the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Personally, I didn't see it coming. I don't think a lot of other people saw it coming too, but it was just an absolute delight to see Anthony Edwards go to work in that third quarter game 2, and then to see the clamps put on by Jaden McDaniels all over game. Oh, wait, did I say game 1? Wait, Anthony Edwards game 1, Jaden Daniels game 2. I'm just excited. It's a wonderful time in Minnesota sports, and I'm all amped up. But, gentlemen, this is, like I said, not something I expected. I thought the Phoenix Suns not only were going to put up a really tough fight against the Timberwolves, but they were where are they? I'm wondering where the Phoenix Suns are, honest to goodness. We've had a couple guys show up, but other than that, it has just kind of been a no-show. I expected tougher games, but I'm also in a position where I'm a Timberwolves fan, and I have no idea what to do with this 2-0 lead. It's unprecedented territory, but it is awesome. And do you guys feel any inklings about just where Game 3 is going to go? Do you think this momentum is going to carry, or do you think that the Wolves have only done what the cliche is? They've held serve, and that the true series doesn't start until a road team wins a game. But how are we feeling about this 2-0 advantage, fellas?
Manny, I gotta hear from you.
Yeah, Manny always gets the first cut.
I'm itching for
Manny
the
gets the
Timberwolves
first
takes.
cut.
I'm itching for the Timberwolves takes from Manny.
Maybe a series ends as soon as a road team wins a game, because if the Wolves win game 3 on Friday, this thing is over.
Yep.
This thing is over. And I'm already, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm already kind of leaning towards this thing being over, because the Wolves, the thing that I think the Wolves have going for them is their defense.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is this is a team that has a defense and plays defense well enough to go all the way to the NBA Finals. Now, they get through this series and they face the Denver Nuggets in the second round, because I think that series is over too.
It's over.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a challenge. You know, if they get to the next round and they have to play the champs, you know, that's going to be the big hurdle. But I think if they get past that, I think their defense is going to be strong enough to take care of the teams on the other brackets in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City and Dallas and the Clippers, whoever that might be. So this defense is so good, and they have been so good all year. They've been the number 1 defensive team in the league. And I think that is what they're going to hang their hat on. We know that, you know, offensively, they can be a little bit inconsistent. They've got guys that are capable 3-point shooters, but not always the most consistent 3-point shooters. But if you get a game like what we saw on Tuesday with game 2, where they're loading up on Anthony Edwards, you know, whenever we saw it for much of at least the first like 2.5 quarters, they seemed to back off a little bit in the third quarter, which I don't know why Frank Vogel did that, but
right.
Yeah.
But they were loading up on Ant. Every time Ant had the ball, either at the top of the key or one of the 2 wings, they were loading up on him, forcing him to pass the ball.
Yeah.
And
they were causing turnovers too in the first
they
quarter
were,
of game 1. 4
yep.
turnovers by Ant.
Yep, absolutely. And if I really don't understand why Phoenix went away from it, because as soon as they went away from it, like the Wolves seemed to really pick things up offensively.
Yeah.
So, but
it's saying game 1 or game 2 right now?
Game 1.
In game 1.
Well, game 2 specifically. I mean, they were you saw like they were trying to load up on it. Game 1, it kind of felt like they were trying to put Durant on him for most of the game.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And I think they saw that, especially in the third quarter, that
ain't the
they
matchup.
loaded
it wasn't
up in
going to
game
work.
2.
Like that was not going to bother him. So they tried to kind of load up where they would have, his primary defender on him, and then they try to cheat, Devin Booker or Bradley Beal or somebody up on him to try and, just to basically force him to be a distributor. Well, they forced him to do that in game 2. And, guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels were able to hit shots.
I was
and
just going to bring up
so
Nickeil,
good.
my guy. Oh, I love him.
Nickeil was fantastic in game 2. Jaden was just amazing in game 2.
Amazing.
Jaden single-handedly in game 2 shut up anybody going after him about how bad he's played on offense all season long. Because he 10 of 17 shooting, I believe, with the 25 points.
Yep.
And that's the frustrating thing about
great.
him, is because that offensive skill is there, that mid-range game, that mid-range shot, the ability we saw multiple times from him to slash to the basket and attack the rim and finish. He has that ability. He's always had that for the last couple of years. We just don't see it consistently enough. And I think ultimately that's why the Wolves sometimes can struggle on the offensive side, because they're relying so heavily on Ant and Cat to carry the offensive load. And then, Conley will get good shots from Conley. And then, Nickeil Alexander-Walker comes in and will hit some shots. Naz Reid, 6th man of the year, comes in and provides an offensive punch off the bench. But if they can get, if they get even like 60% of what they got offensively from Jaden McDaniels last night,
we'd be
this team can go to the NBA Finals and
was
win an
scary.
NBA championship.
And we all know we're going to get 100% of that defense every night too, because this is the most effort I've ever seen a Timberwolves team exude. It really is. It's incredible. And there was just a switch that they hadn't flipped against the Phoenix Suns all season long that they were saving for their back pocket. And clearly that's showing up in the playoffs. Guys, Nurkic is holding his own okay. He's putting up some decent numbers, but they have no answer for the size of the Timberwolves whatsoever. And I'm sorry, Kevin Durant is not really interested in defending in the post anymore. He doesn't really go after a ton of rebounds.
Truly.
Yeah, but now, like, any rebounds he get, it's literally just a brick that hits off the rim and just, deflects towards the free throw line or something like that. I don't know how Phoenix is responding or how they're going to respond to Gobert, to Carl, to even Naz Reid. I mean, here's been the amazing thing. We had wonderful games from Naz and Nickeil in game 1, but they were just kind of okay in game 2.
Yeah.
Let's be real about it. Naz missed a lot of open shots. He had a couple, but it wasn't nearly as consistent as we've seen from him. And even though Nickeil Alexander-Walker put up another awesome plus-minus, he wasn't hitting a ton of the same awesome clutch shots that we were seeing
That was a bonus.
in game 2.
Yeah.
The
Right.
defense is what we get out
But
of
this
him.
is my point is
Yeah.
that we've won very different ways in these last couple games, and Phoenix has not been able to adjust to either different way that we've been attacking them on offense, and clearly they have no answer for our defense. Devin Booker.
Well, they don't have a point guard. They don't have a
they
point
don't.
guard.
Even their guard, Grayson Allen, their guard.
He's hurt
He's
now.
hurt.
Yep.
He's been
That's going to hurt
off
them
the
on
court.
both sides. That's going to hurt
They've
them
got-
on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They've got Devin Booker trying to be, sort of the lead guard, point guard of that offense. And that's not, you can do that during a regular season when you're playing teams like Charlotte and Detroit and Toronto. Like when you're playing bad teams, Devin Booker can cook those teams while being, sort of the quasi point guard of the team.
Yeah.
But when you get to the playoffs, it's like Devin Booker is a scorer, man.
Right.
He needs the ball in his hand so that he can look to attack and score. And if teams start to double team on him or load up on him the way they tried to load up on Ant last night, then he can kind of be more of a facilitator. But Devin Booker's a scorer, man. He's a bucket getter. Like that's what he should be doing, not trying to run an offense and make sure that, that KD's in the right spot and Bradley Beal's in the right spot. And by the way, anytime Bradley Beal I'm sounding like a Suns fan when I say this, but like anytime Bradley Beal wants to come join the party, he can. Like,
okay.
and the Suns gave up a point guard to get Bradley Beal. They traded away a true point guard to get him. So that's why they're in this position right now in an 0-2 hole.
And another big reason why they're in it too is they're not playing. They're playing too much one-on-one. They've had 16 total assists for the Suns in game 1, 16 assists total throughout the team, and 19 last night. That is, you're looking at 5 assists total in 2 games between all your players. Everybody's playing one-on-one ball, and with this defense that this team has, you can't play
game,
one.
though.
I know that's their game, but
that's how they play.
It just ain't working. It ain't working with us, and
that's why. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And I feel like, and with Rudy Gobert, we were talking about that. He's had an obviously great year, and I think that partially is because, and I'm going to steal this take from someone, I can't remember who said it, but I was listening to another, analyst talk, and they were talking about how the trust that Rudy Gobert has now for the protection of the basket. In Utah, that man didn't have anything. He had nobody to back him up. He didn't trust anybody to do anything. And now he's got, Carl, who, we all know who Carl is, but he's got Nas, he's got, Daniels to help him with the rim, and he can go out and be a presence in the court.
And most importantly, he's got help on the perimeter.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing. He's got a ton
He
of
had
help
nothing remotely close to that in Utah.
Nothing.
And I remember, you guys
Except for
remember
Mike
when
Conley.
I mean, and you guys remember when they made this trade 2 years ago.
Oh.
That was my concern of like, okay, well, what is this going to look like when they get to the playoffs and teams start playing small and they try to take Rudy out of the game? Like, how is this going to work? But then you go back and look at a lot of those games that Utah fell short in. Rudy was let down, man. Those guys, Donovan Mitchell, for as great an offensive player as he is, he's not the world's greatest defender. And he's surrounded by really good defensive players in Cleveland. And I think that's why it's kind of working for them. But guys like Joe Ingles and who was it? Was it
Jordan Clarkson?
Jordan Clarkson and
right.
Bogdan Bogdanovic and or was it? I forget which Bogdanovic it was that was in Utah. I forget the first name, but like those guys were not good defenders. They were not good defenders at all. And so much of why Rudy was taken out of those games or sort of played off the floor in those games is because when he was out there, he was spending so much time and exerting so much energy trying to clean up the screw ups of his perimeter defenders surrounding him. He doesn't have that problem with this team.
It's awesome.
This is the easiest mop up duty the man has ever had. Honestly,
so he can just kind of sit down in the paint and just cook and just wait for and just clean up what he needs to, but he doesn't have to clean up much, and he can. And now they've got him. He's out on the perimeter guarding like KD, guys.
So he's leaving the basket.
Dude,
I've never
for a big man, that footwork though that he had on Kevin Durant in particular to box him into the corner in game 1 was just elite defense. As much as I'm gushing over Jaden McDaniels right now, I can't get over what Rudy Gobert is providing this team. Phoenix can get absolutely nothing in the paint, and when they do, they're getting just hit and bruised and beaten, and the refs have swallowed their whistles just a little bit here in the playoffs.
I like it too.
I like it too.
That's what you need against a team that's a jump shooting team, because you got to be physical with those guys. You got to be physical. So anytime you can get in their chest and kind of move them around how you want to move them around, that's what you'd hope for. The refs aren't calling those ticky-tack fouls in the playoffs. That is what you need.
So are you guys expecting any kind of letdown at all in game 3? You think Phoenix might try to hold serve here, get the momentum of the crowd back, get the shooting numbers back again? I still expect them to start heating up a little bit offensively.
I think they're going to lose game 3. I'm not going to lie.
The Wolves or the Suns?
The Wolves.
I could definitely see Phoenix winning game 3.
Me too. And then we would win it.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
I
think they lose game 3 and win game 4
and 5.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you though, I saw the Wolves in 4 chants in and outside of Target Center after game 2, man, and it was a lot of fun.
Let's enjoy 2-0, boys.
I know, but they're just doing the meme. Suns in 4. I get it. Anytime you're playing the Phoenix Suns now, you have to bring up that meme of the guy in the NBA Finals.
Yes, I forgot about that.
That's what it's from. Yeah.
Speaking of that, bringing it up, we have to bring up the most obnoxious thing I've ever heard, and I don't know if anybody heard this watching TV, but the overrated chant that our fans were chanting at Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And then that man comes out and busts every single shot except for one free throw and puts 31 points down on him. I'm sorry. Like that. No. I love you. And I'm a big Minnesota fan. I love Minnesota fans, but like, let's think about
not play
that
around
one.
with that.
Yeah,
Let Tony
Because
alone.
Kevin Durant, even at age 35, is still him. Like,
He's never overrated.
Yes.
Come on now. I was
No.
like, boys, like you make that. This made us look like a very naive fan base.
Yeah.
And I didn't like
Trying
it.
to-
And I was like, and I don't also appreciate, which I know people do, but the you suck refs or all the chants. I'm like,
Kids are at the game. Don't do that. I
ain't
don't
gonna
like
help
that
your-
one.
That it's not gonna help us out come down the stretch. But they're
I'm
not.
surprised you don't like that, Grant.
I know. Normally, but I just right now
Because I can see you being one of the main guys.
Usually I am, but in this situation, I want to this team, as we all talked about. This is something special right now,
Yes.
and I just don't want to mess with the flow of things.
That's
and
fair.
I don't need to add any other variables that can mess with the flow. We don't need to mess with Katie's head because Katie can take things over. We don't need the refs getting mad at us right now because they've been nice and loose with the whistle with our defense because we're a strong defensive team that tends to poke and chat. I just leave the refs out of it during the playoffs because I don't want them getting biased. I'm not saying that they are.
No.
And I'm not doing the Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
But
No.
I'm just saying, let's just keep them.
Not unless the Lakers are playing the Nuggets, then they're a little
I
bit
am
biased.
All right. Anyway,
It's pretty blatant.
I'm very interested in seeing though the adjustments that Phoenix makes. I'm sitting there like watching the game, like what could they do to really? But I
Make a
do
trade.
think- and Manny kind of alluded to it earlier because you was like, I don't know why they came out of that defense of loading up on Ant. I think the Wolves are shooting them out of that defense. I think I think they're starting to become a little bit nervous about, okay, these guys getting open looks and they're knocking them down. They did it game 1 and game 2. Anthony Edwards took over the third quarter of game 1, but leading up into that moment, the team was already cooking and he just added fuel to the fire. And then game 1, 15 points, 3 of 12 from the field. Like the team, really Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert at a certain point kind of carried the load.
Yes.
And then when the game was kind of teetering in the third, they put that five out lineup out there with 5 shooters and really made things tough as well. So I think one of their adjustments is going to be trying to make Ant beat them. I think ultimately they're gonna come out of that defense. I think it's gonna get to a point where they don't have any choice because now the Wolves have seen it not only in the playoffs, they saw it in the regular season too.
Yeah.
So they know how it looks. They know what you want to do. You can't even disguise that defense. I think they're gonna come out of it and kind of play Ant like how they play Jokic, where it's like, you know what, we're gonna let Ant be Ant. Now we're gonna throw different bodies at him. We're gonna throw, KD and Bradley Beal and all these different guys at him. Try to throw him off here and there, but we're gonna let him go for his 30. We're gonna stay home on all of these shooters though. Because the worst thing you could do is let these shooters around you get hot and Ant gets, because he can get a shot whenever he wants it.
Yeah.
Everybody, you don't want everybody cooking. If it's just Ant, you could slow the team down. But if everybody's cooking, it's tough. I also think that Frank Vogel is going to make it his mission to get Devin Booker more involved. And I think he's going to make it his mission to get Jaden McDaniels off Devin Booker.
Or at least
I think they're gonna probably try to like pinpoint a few matchups on the floor. Mike Conley's over there. Let's whoever Mike Conley's guarding. Let's get a screen over here. Try to get a switch. Or
expose some mismatches.
I was gonna say he's
Rudy Gobert, and they tried this in game 2, but Book was just off. But Rudy, let's come over here. Let's get a screen. Let's get this switch. And Rudy's been playing great on the outside, but in Phoenix against Book, if he's got it going, that's the matchup that Phoenix would want. So that's why that's why I ultimately think they'll win game 3, because I think they'll come very desperate. I think they'll come very hungry. I think they'll come with a little bit more energy. Yeah. I think role players obviously play better as well on the road. So I think they'll get game 3, get the Wolves back to the drawing board. All right, this is the adjustments that they made. Let's revamp our adjustments, and then I think they come back and still game.
I like that. All right.
Yeah, if Phoenix is smart, they should try to get Jaden McDaniels in the same kind of foul trouble that they got Cat into game 2.
See, and
go ahead, Manny.
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up Cat because that's the guy that I'm looking at for, like, if the Wolves are going to like win game 3 and put this thing away, essentially put this thing away and go up 3-0, I think it's going to take, obviously, Ant, with the way Artis is saying things of how they're going to play Ant, but I think Cat needs to have a big game. Big game offensively.
He's due for
one. And and he's due for one. And he got into foul trouble last night. And Chris Finch. And I know a lot of people were getting on Chris Finch for leaving him in there in the first quarter, allowing him to pick up that third.
Yeah,
he does that a lot. But here's the thing.
Trying to build that trust.
And here's the thing. In Chris Finch's defense, Cat's got to get rid of the dumb ticky-tack fouls.
Flop.
Yep.
The moving screen, the first foul he got called for, that stupid moving screen, he's got to cut that stuff out. And then the third foul that he got, where he was trying to crash the boards and like landed on hip check Devin Booker in the air and then landed on him and got called for the third foul.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, all right, Cat,
Even worse.
know your spots here.
Remember his fourth foul against Durant when he tried to pickpocket Durant at the top of the key and just blatantly
exactly.
ran? I'm like, you don't need to do that. Let your defenders behind you take him. Don't make that play. That was a horrible attempt. I mean, I know you want to try to make that steal and get the dunk.
It's good aggressiveness. It's just misplaced.
But that was such a bad foul. You're right.
And
man. That's a great point.
And Cat, every year the Cat's been in the playoffs, which is this is the fourth time now he's been in the playoffs now in his career. It's always been like the dumb foul or dumb fouls that gets him in trouble and takes him off his rhythm, and why we see so many times where it's like we're like Cat's coming up small in the playoffs again. Like, that's the kind of stuff that he's got to avoid so that he can stay on the floor, get himself in a good rhythm, and really give this team a really good chance to win and take some pressure off of Ant so that Ant might not need to score 35 points for this team to win a game.
And it's crazy. One of our best players isn't playing that great right now, and we're still up 2-0 on the series, and these victories have been
because everybody keeps stepping up.
This is great.
And the thing about it is, like, last game he didn't play great from a scoring output, but like from like a facilitating output, and just like making the right play. He made the right plays all night long.
Yeah, he had 8 assists last night,
and they won with that loading up defense. They're because Ant is young. He's 22. They want him to force it. They want him to go in there and just jack up shots or attack the basket and turn the ball over. And I won't say shocked, but I will say shocked that he really isn't playing. Like, he's okay with, I got 15 or I got 10 by the end of the third quarter.
He doesn't care about the box score.
And then he can pick his spots.
He's doing a great job of picking his spots. An amazing job of picking his spots. So, I mean, that's why I'm like, I think that they're going to have no choice but to come out of that defense. And then it's barbecue chicken with whoever's trying to guard them one-on-one, which will be fun. But it may work best for Phoenix to do it that way because he may be the only one in rhythm at that point.
Never know. Gentlemen, so much to dive into with the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's just, we're in unprecedented territory with this 2-0 lead. We had a 2-0 lead in 2003-2004, right, on our way to the Western Conference. Didn't we?
First round against Denver, This is only the second time they've ever only the second time they've ever had a 2-0 series lead. Ever.
Wow. Unbelievable.
35 years.
It was against Denver, and that was what, first round? Was that the first round?
First round. That was the 1-8 matchup in the first round.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Have we ever been up 3-0? Ever?
No.
I would
No, because the Nuggets won game three of that series, and then the Wolves won a really tight game four. Game four, I'll never forget, because that was the start of why like John Barry became like public enemy #1 in Minnesota, because he was like at the end of game four, him and Latrell Sprewell were like jawing at each other because the Wolves had won this very like really close,
intense,
grinded out, intense game. And you see at the end, like KG had like took the ball and like tossed it up in the air after the Nuggets missed the final shot. And then they just show like Sprewell and John Barry, who wasn't even like, John Barry was like still wearing his warm up. I don't even think he had been in the game. He's like jawing at Latrell Sprewell. And then all of a sudden, like game 5 rolls around, and John Barry is like, every time he touches the ball, like the Wolves fans are like booing him at Target Center. It's hilarious.
Like when Jimmy Butler comes to town. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but he was right.
Right.
Jimmy Butler was right.
He was.
Yeah, and I'll say this in final closing as we got to start wrapping up the show because we're approaching an hour. It is a damn shame that Kevin Garnett can't be in attendance for these games at Target Center now. I know he can, but we know it's not going to happen. I know. It's just, it's a shame because...
But he's given some nice tweets out. He did a nice shout out to
That's fine,
Ant,
but it's just, it stinks when because there were so many celebrities and socialites at the last couple of games getting on the Jumbotron, Justin Jefferson, we're all there.
But we all know why.
I know. It's the whole Glenn Taylor situation, the whole Flip Saunders thing after Flip passed away. We all know the story, but it's just a shame that some of the...
before that, it wasn't it? I mean, from and Manny, did you guys watch the documentary, Kevin Garnett's doc on Showtime? Did you guys see that?
I haven't seen it. No,
I haven't watched it yet. No,
Oh, you guys haven't seen that? That
No,
came
I
out.
haven't.
I've been
it's
wanting to. I just haven't gotten around
so
to it
good.
yet.
I mean, it's quite a bit of, he's got quite a dirty mouth, which I love about
that's
KG.
what we
but
love
the whole
about
thing
him.
is
Yeah.
a lot of swear words. But there was a whole point, and I mean, this is just me bringing up old news, but like it actually goes back to way farther than that. It's when they did a picture with Kevin Garnett and then Glenn Taylor and Flip Saunders. They were standing up, and he was sitting down below him, and that's when he felt there was a big separation as to these two guys think
we're
that
setting
they're,
up a hierarchy
even though him and Flip
here.
were like this, even though Flip and him were like this, that's where the whole. I mean,
it's not a good look.
yeah, you go.
Yeah.
You guys need to see that documentary. It's only like
I'm
a
gonna
couple.
check it out.
What streaming?
I think it's on Showtime. I believe it's.
I'm gonna
Okay.
check it out. I might watch that.
I need to bum a
tonight.
password from a buddy or something to
so
get that
good.
one.
I got you.
You do have pretty much
I
every
do.
streaming
I got
service.
you.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, it's a shame that KG is choosing not to be at these games, but it sucks that these are some of the most intense games that we've ever had at Target Center, and literally the big ticket can't be there to celebrate with all the fans and everything. Because I know the second the second he comes back, the second he is welcome back to Target Center, it is going to be one of the most festive nights in Timberwolves history. It's going to be so great. They'll retire the number, and that's the thing. It's just I hate not seeing number 21 not in the rafters at Target Center. It is just an absolute shame. And rant.
Not going to happen until
I know.
Glenn is out of the picture. It's
Hey,
just,
and they got a mediation coming up here in early May.
21st.
Yeah, woohoo!
No.
How about did you see the report? And sorry to interrupt you guys. You see this story came out yesterday. The report that Glenn Taylor purchased 2.5% from another minority owner so that he could then jump up to 37
trying
and
to accumulate it all.
he's now majority over A-Rod and Lori because he's at 37 and they're at 36 or something like that. But this came out. I mean, it's yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe it was. It might have been even that he purchased a small percentage, 2.5 or 2.9% of another minority owner to get that jump over them. It's getting dirty.
These billionaires are just slithering around.
That's a
honestly.
report. That's a report. It's not confirmed.
I don't know. As long as it doesn't distract us from this potential run through the NBA playoffs for the Minnesota Timberwolves, that's all I care about. And I believe actually A-Rod, Lori, and Taylor were all in attendance for games 1 and 2, and I think everybody got along just fine. They sit across the court from each other, so they didn't actually bump elbows. But hey, at least they can all be in the same building together. Guys, that's going to have to wrap up Taxi Squad for the week. One of the most lively shows, I think, in our show's history, with all the speculation about what the Vikings are about to do in the NFL draft. We even forgot to talk about players that aren't quarterbacks that the Vikings could potentially take. I like the Jared Verse guy from Florida State. I like that Ed Dresser Verse guy from Florida State. That's my 2 cents. But guys, any final thoughts before you wrap up the program for the week? I mean, think about it. Next week, we'll know more about what the Timberwolves situation is in the playoffs. Maybe we'll have clinched a second round berth by then, but we'll also finally know who the quarterback is going to be for the Vikings. Any final thoughts from all you guys around the room?
It's the best time to be a part of Minnesota sports.
That's right, Artis.
It's the best
so
time.
fun right now,
It's
man.
literally the best time.
It's been good.
It's pretty great.
I just think that it's kind of, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the other two men's pro teams in town, but it's like nobody's really talking about the Wild or the Twins right now, and it's usually this time of the year, they're the ones that are being talked about the most.
And Twins right now, the Twins they don't even let you go on the upper deck right now.
Nope, they cut it off for April.
They've cut off the upper deck for April.
They did it even when Shohei was in town. When Shohei was in town. Hey, at least they've taken, I don't know what the score of the game is right now, but hey, they have at least taken 2 or 3 so far from the lowly Chicago White
19
Sox.
White Sox.
That was a fun little walk-off win the other night. Buxton hit the game-tying home run, and then Kirilloff had the go-ahead single. That was fun. That was cool. But I don't think anybody went to the game with the Wolves game going on yesterday. It was a very sparse crowd at Target Field, that is for sure. But of course, this is the Taxi Squad. We will get back into Twins and Wild and other conversation in Minnesota sports, obviously, when they are relevant. But right now, obviously, the Vikings and the Timberwolves are front and center, just with everything going on with the NFL draft and the NBA playoffs. You gotta get a howl out, baby.
Let's
I
go.
love it.
Let's go.
Let's go. That will wrap up Taxi Squad for the week. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. My name is Jason Stormer. That's Artis Woods. That's Grant Wenkstern. And again, Manny Hill returns to the Taxi Squad once again.
Woo-hoo!
Obviously, Manny, come back anytime. You're more than welcome. And yeah, just obviously your insights and your analysis are just they're just I can't beat it. I know I just can never be on Manny Hill's level. That is for sure. So thanks for coming on, man.
One
really
more
appreciate
thing.
what.
Just for
My
our
pleasure.
listeners, if you want to watch a Kevin Garnett documentary and you don't have ESPN, according to YouTube, it's on there. It looks like you can watch it for free on
Right on.
YouTube.
Are you serious?
Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Sweet.
So-
Clutch.
Sweet.
Thank you for that.
But
Yeah.
please check out the SKOR North Taxi Squad on the SKOR North YouTube channel before you watch
Please
that.
do.
If you don't mind,
Please
please let's get that viewership up if you don't mind. Anyway, thank you so much again for listening and watching, everybody, the SKOR North Taxi Squad. Catch you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.